Let me just
What
tell.
is going on, everybody? Welcome to another special Monday night episode of 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I'm Mel, and joining me as always is Ronnie, Big Smooth Hennigan. Ronnie, what's happening, bruh?
Not a whole lot, Mel. Just taking in all the gut punches I've experienced this weekend with football. You know what I'm saying? At every level of football.
Uh,
But we'll get into that later. But I'm
yeah,
glad to
we
have
will.
our guest, man. And you know, Mel proud of his shirt. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, of course, of
it's all
course.
good,
I
man.
look. Just because I write for the Browns, don't mean I gotta root for them. I'm
Oh,
gonna
I know
still
that.
stick with.
Oh, I know that.
The
But you know what though? I'm gonna say this, man. This is what I love. And Glenn, I gotta tell you this too, man. This is what I
Okay.
love about Mel. We have the most unbiased conversations when it comes to sports, man, especially in football.
Yeah.
And for us to have these, rivalries and stuff like that, it's just cool because I don't know many Steeler fans that I can talk to that will be level with me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So the thing is, like, instead of throwing salt in the wound, he like, oh yeah, they can bounce back, stuff like that. It's rare to even talk to anybody that will say something like that.
Hmm.
Plus, with him, he just keep it real level anyway. Because everybody else I was looking at online, man, they was celebrating yesterday like it was a playoff win or something. I was like, well, that tell you a lot about how things have turned over the last couple of years. So I'm good with it.
I mean, I feel like it is definitely the hype of it was definitely different.
Hmm.
Compared to past years. Past years it's just a rivalry and then it happens. But yesterday, actually, like it's been some chirping, jawing between people for 2 weeks. You
Yeah.
know, and
hmm
it was definitely a different vibe yesterday going into that game. And my wife is a Steelers fan. I'm not a Browns fan, but I understand the pain of the Browns being a Raiders fan. So it was definitely different. Just the whole type of the game. So I
Speaking of
definitely.
you, speaking of you saying that, Glenn, when we saw the Raiders beat the Chiefs,
Mhm.
like
Took me by surprise.
it was great though. But I told Mel, I said that interview that Carr had after that last loss before
Yeah.
that game, you could tell that man was determined. He was like, look, y'all can say what y'all want. Y'all can be as happy as y'all want for our team and what we've done and with the move, but I'm sick of losing. I was just like, oh, he about to beat the Chiefs.
And
He
they
about to
just
beat the Chiefs.
they just finally got him some help, man. Like people got to remember, man,
Yep.
that his best year before last year, because last year was statistically his best year.
Hmm.
If you think about the year, he probably would have won the MVP had he not broke his leg the last game.
Oh yeah.
Remember that, and we made the playoffs and we lost to Houston. But
Yeah.
he won the MVP had he not broke his leg. But you got to think of the weapons he had. He had Coop, a second
Yeah.
year Coop. He had Crabtree. Um,
Hmm.
and then after that, it's just John Gruden that we had the following year, and then it was rebuild mode. Trade Mark Cooper, and let
Yep.
Crabtree grow, and but they've done a good job starting building up that line, man. Biggest line in the NFL, man.
True. And I was pulling for y'all that year, man, for real. I was like, I want the Raiders to go all the way, bro, because that was like the best story to follow,
Yep.
seeing how well they did during the season. And then here you go, you had to put in an unproven rookie, man. Was it Connor Cook, I believe, that
Yeah.
came in filling for him? And I was like, ooh, this is not the
Yeah.
game that's how your first start.
Houston wasn't that good that year either. They had just won,
No.
and like he was good enough. He could have won that game.
Yeah.
So, but
But
yeah,
yeah, I was pulling
Yeah,
for y'all for sure.
speaking of which, gotta give you a formal introduction. We'd like to welcome our guest tonight, former Bucktown High School standout, Hiram's second all-time leader in yards and receptions, I believe. Well, actually, all-time leader in receptions, second all-time leader in yards. Glenn, Mister I Catch Everything Campbell, what's happening, man?
going on, man. Thanks for having me.
No
Yeah, we
problem, no
blessed, man.
problem.
Glad you on, bro.
Okay, so uh, while we mentioning Buckle and you being from Akron, take us through humble beginnings. What was life like for you growing up?
Man, I grew up in West Akron, man, West Akron, Ohio. Um, I kind of just got thrown into the fire playing football. You know, I was just just dropped off at practice one day and not told what was going to happen. You see kids playing, they got footballs in their hand. You don't know what's going on until reality set in when you put those pads on. Then you figure out what's actually going on, and then you figure out you don't want to get hit anymore. So you start hitting and start doing stuff that that makes you become a football player, man. So I started when I was 8, typical. Played for a few different teams, and then just went on to middle school, and then went on to high school. And it's pronounced Bukto. So I just wanted to because we hear that all the time, and but yeah, it's Bukto, man. And I played on for the team, man. My freshman year was actually Antonio Pittman's senior year at Bukto. So we was coming off of we had some pretty good teams those 4 years I was there. My junior year we actually lost a game for the state championship, man, to Steubenville. They beat us twice that year. We opened the season with them and took an L game 1, and then took another L game 14. So that was a tough team, and then opened the season back up with them my senior year and lost to them again. So you lose 3 times to the same team in 2 years. But that was a good team, man. Them boys went 30-0 as those 2 years.
It was a good team. All right, now
Yeah, it was.
You leave Bookstall, and you head to Hiram. What made you choose Hiram?
Man, it was kind of a last second decision, man. We had an issue with a coach that our head coach that he ended up losing his job like at the wrong time of the year, like a couple of weeks before signing day. And I was only gaining like D2 interest. I had just got an offer from Mercyhurst, and I was receiving a lot of interest from Gannon too. So I probably was going to head up to Mercyhurst to play because my uncle lived in Erie. So I was very familiar with the area, and he being up in that Mill Creek area, Erie. So I was heading there. Situations didn't go the way it happened. It's not like it is now with recruiting where, a coach can reach out to you on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. It was, back in those days, you called a head coach and they come to the school, they call you down to the coach's office, and then you talk with the coaches then. So I kind of lost all my D2 interest at the time. Luckily, I was still hooping, and the Hiram coach, the basketball coach, had been to like 15-hour games. You know what I'm saying? So that was really how I ended up at Hiram. I actually went to Hiram to hoop. It wasn't. I was after that situation with football. I was like completely done with football. Like I didn't want it. I didn't want to play it. I felt like I got done wrong for a situation that wasn't my thing. I ended up getting talked into playing football because of a coach who is family with my stepdad. So he talked me into meeting the coach while I was on my basketball visit, and so I said if I come to Hiram, we'll talk about playing football. And then when I got my acceptance and all that and signed my intent, I just decided I'll give it a shot to play football. So I originally went to Hiram to play basketball. I hated football at that time.
See, this is where I had to jump in because it was one of the questions I had. Because looking at your bio and seeing like what you were doing, playing both sports, I was like, okay, did he go for football? Did he go for basketball? Like how they both come into play? And you just spun that right up, man. So you went to Hiram for basketball. Football was kind of just there. Yep. And then you end up, getting all these accolades and balling out, Would you say overall, was football like your top sport, or was basketball your top sport?
I get asked that question all the time. Whichever one I wasn't playing at the time was probably my favorite. Like football, like week 6, 7, that's when the hoop team starts practicing and getting ready for the season, taking pictures, and I'm seeing like all the fresh new practice gear and the shoes, and they walking into practice and doing this. I'm walking to the football field, so now I'm itching to get back with them guys, and then once hoop is coming towards the end, spring ball coming. I didn't miss them 6 a.m. lifts though. I never missed those. For
I know
football.
those.
Yeah,
Nobody missed them.
yeah. I didn't miss those, but yeah, man, whichever one I wasn't playing at the time was the one I missed. But yeah, it was definitely a grind and it kept me busy. Definitely kept me
Yeah,
busy
I
all
was
year.
gonna say, because at that collegiate level, man, it's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
different lifestyle, different demands. It's not like you in high school where you go to practice, you keep your eligibility, you play. Right? It's a little more
Mhm.
intense than that. A little more of a rigorous schedule they may throw at you. Conditioning's a lot different.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just a totally different
Whole
ballgame,
lot different.
man, at that level. Yeah, so you figure to go through that and then to be able to say, okay, I'm somebody who was able to, you know, participate in two different sports, right? And then to have those urges, man, when you, like you said, you saw the freshmen come through and like the different gear and all that, and the swag was different, and to be
right.
able to have that draw each year, like I know me personally, I don't know if I would have been able to do it like year after year. Maybe a couple of years, I'll be like, you know what? Okay, I got this going on. I'm just going to decide which one I'm going to like roll with full time. You know what I mean? So, how was that for you? Like, how did you come to that decision to be like, you know what? I'm gonna just still do them all. The whole time I'm there. Like, what made you keep going with both and not have one to be like to choose from to go forward with?
Man, honestly, it's my mom. Like, and to be honest with you, I almost quit both at one point in my career.
Wow.
My
Okay.
yeah, my freshman year, I almost quit during like Christmas, like at Christmas break time. We were in Indiana. We had a double header. We used to call it
Mm-hmm.
our Indiana trip where we go out, we play Wabash, and then we play like Earlham when they was in the conference. So we go out to Indianapolis and I believe Richmond. So we spend a weekend there, and this is a freshman when I'm a freshman where you don't know, you know, the ins and out of college basketball and coaches and how they
Yes.
think differently than in high school. It's not talent is always going to be on the court first. It's how you fit the scheme and what do you do to get on the court, playing
Yeah.
defense and all that little stuff where you ignorant to it as a freshman because you just don't know because you haven't talked to the coach, really talk to the coach just a one-on-one. But I just remember we lost the second game,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember like being in a restaurant we eating, and I'm thinking like, man, I'm done once we get back, because I've been on campus, for 2 weeks, when I could have been at home chilling on Christmas break. It's just us and the girls basketball team in the middle of nowhere. We in the snow belt, so snow everywhere. Can't go outside, can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my mom was just like, if you do, you got to talk to the coach and see what's going on. And this will really change my career on the hoop side. You know what I'm saying? So I had that convo with my coach, and I asked him, like, what do I, need to do? I'm thinking about just sticking to football, and his thing was pretty much like, well, one, I wanted to get you get in shape and recover from football. Two, I didn't know what you wanted to play or what you were comfortable as far as the guard situation. In high school, I played the two mostly. He was like, but I need a backup one. And I was like, well, I play it if I get on the court. So we had this thing where, I go in and I push the tempo, play defense, and my minutes is my minutes. Crazy thing, man, a true story. That same combo I had with him on that Sunday, man. We had a game Wednesday, and I had one of my best games of my career. I got in and I did my thing, and then after that, it was just a wrap. I flirted with a triple double, man, quadruple double that game off the bench. So
Man.
that combo, man, I tell people that combo all the time, especially my young kids when they go talking to these coaches and they say that they're not playing and all this stuff. Man, go talk to your coach, because he's gonna give it straight to you raw. And then if you feel it's not right, then that's when you leave. Don't just say, "Oh, they was just playing me." And then the end of my junior year, man, it was like our worst season, man. Like I mean, it was just turmoil as far as the coaching situation and this and that. We had like some old school minded coaches where I just didn't like how it was heading, So I was just like, man, if they come back, head coach, man, I'm just sticking to hoop. I'm sticking to hoop. And that year, that my junior, that was my best year on the hoop side. I was second leading scorer that year. So you already know my mindset going in. Like, okay, I said this at the end of the football season, my junior year. Like, now I just was second leading scorer. So they had to talk me into going to spring ball because I was like, I'm done. We had new coaches, and we had to have a really strong convo with them, to convince me to play. Like, I don't want to play quarterback anymore. Like, I don't want to do all this extra stuff. Let me focus on just playing receiver, man, because I had played 2 games at quarterback that year and receiver. I did punt returns, kick returns, running back. Like, I was doing a lot of stuff that year that physically, like, wore me down, and on top of that, you're not vibing with the coaches. So, but, you had them combos with the coaches, man, and it's funny how life works.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, around that time, Coach Wolf and Iman were still there.
Yep, JP, yep.
And then it got really bad, and they let Coach Wolf go. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Coach Iman was right behind him because they had tried to get me to come. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can afford $60,000 a year.
I was
one of the most.
Yeah, man, it was just, man, it was heading the wrong way after the year before, man. We had a great freshman recruiting class that came in. We had about 10 to 12 guys that came out of Atlanta, that was playing as freshmen, and then their recession hit. So some of those guys couldn't afford to come back. The best player out of that group, they wouldn't play him. He was a 6'2", 6'3", 290-pound defensive tackle that ended up transferring, going to a JUCO, playing 2 years at Mississippi State, making all conference, and then winning the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. So,
oh my goodness!
Wow!
Wow! Like that was just talking about. Like you look at that, like further on down the line, man, where like this kid, was an all SEC second team defensive tackle for Mississippi State, but he was on our team at the D3 level, and just little stuff, they wouldn't put him on the field, but the dude was just an animal. You know how crazy he was, right? So we know we in the weight room and he's snatching, right? Everyone know how hard it is to snatch because it got to be that technique. And what they tell you when you snatching, if you lose your balance or whatever, or you can't get it, let it go behind your head, right? So he's snatching. He got like 285 on the bar snatching it. His knee give out, and he, instead of dropping it, he tosses it forward, like 20. Yes, like 20 feet. He tosses it forward while he's stumbling like this, and everyone's like, "Is he okay?" And I'm just like, "Did y'all see what he just did, though?"
Right, you just flung 285 and it's like a shot put.
Yeah, so man, and it's crazy, man. He ended up, man. He won a Super Bowl ring, man, playing with the Seahawks, man. He got drafted by the Patriots, like the 7th round or something like that, and he got cut for Tim Tebow, and then he ended up in with the 12th man.
That's crazy. See, it's funny you mentioned that because, like, I remember being in a situation at Toledo where being told like you're too large for a certain position. In my eyes, I was like, well, if you're athletic enough and you can keep up and you had the stamina and you're doing what everybody else doing,
right?
I don't know how that even plays because, okay, maybe I am 20 or 30 pounds bigger than some other guys that maybe ski or whatever and want to move me over to D tackle versus D end or whatever it is. I get that. That's cool. But the fact that you would do that and then let somebody slip up and then going to a different school and making it happen, that just tells you, man, right there, like sometimes you don't know what you have and you just got to trust what you see. You know what I'm saying? Especially from a coaching perspective. You got to trust what you see. You can't be like, well, I prefer to have guys on my line that's defensive end who, around 240, 245 and can rush that edge, blah, 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 whatever. It's like, okay, that's cool, but do you want a guy who can rush the edge all the time that's going to miss the quarterback or not be able to contain? Or do you want a guy who got good technique and is going to be there every single time and actually play a whole 4 quarters without coming out? I don't know. That's just me. I'm going to get off my soapbox.
At that point, when he threw 285 forward while falling backwards, ain't nothing else to talk about.
I know I couldn't do that. I know I couldn't do that.
My book, yeah, man. My book ain't nothing else to talk about, bro. You are starting Saturday.
Right. Like how many people can you toss like that?
Right.
Like, forget
that. Speaking of knowing what you had, you got a couple records that we need to talk about. First off,
Throw them up.
You had a record for most receptions and most receiving yards in the game. Now, before we go any further, let me let the fans know, let our viewers know.
Yeah.
Hiram is in the second toughest conference in all of D3 football, behind the OAC. I'm sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
So Hiram is in the North Coast Athletic Conference. They beat each other up for fun in that conference.
It's brutal, man.
And this man has 15 receptions in a game for 220 yards. I'm going to sit here and assume that was the same game, but if it's not, at least take us through what happened, because you clearly was in the zone that day.
Okay, so that game, the 15 catches, that record was me breaking my old record. So my freshman year, I had 13 catches against Wittenberg the last game. So I was a freshman, and I had 13 catches that game. But the 15 catches game and the 220-yard game, those were separate games, but they were in a 3-week span. So the 15 catches was against Denison. It was homecoming, and I was just getting back healthy because the first game against Westminster, I had a high ankle sprain. So I come out and I have 8 catches for 131 and a half. I didn't play the second half. And I was just battling back, getting my ankle right. And that was the game. Like my ankle felt great. It was homecoming. And then I just got in the zone, man. I lined up everywhere. And we ended up losing that game in OT in double overtime. It was just a tough loss. And then a few weeks later, we ended up going over to Carnegie Mellon on Pittsburgh. And that was just a game where, like, these dudes played man, like, the whole game. And, somebody like me, who, for one, that was like I said, the year I really just played strictly wide receiver. I've been begging to play the Z, this and that. And these dudes just came out, man, the whole game with some slow guys. And I got in the zone. I think like my third catch was like 83 yards where like these dudes like ran into each other. It was like a man concept where like the safety came down and we was running like a mesh concept. The safety came down. He had me. The nickel guy. No, the nickel guy had me. He was chasing me. The safety came down. He had the back. So I'm crossing. On the mesh, the back is hooking up and he's flaring. These dudes ran into each other, and then I hit the corner. I saw nothing but green, and I just set the tone, man. I had 220 yards that game. I had 2 touchdowns, and I also threw one on like a jet sweep. But yeah, man, it's just one of them games, man. You look up and you just don't realize the volume of what you was doing just because you was just playing. I mean, that whole year, the volume I was just getting, man, it really didn't click till like I started seeing double teams in a bracket. Like I was getting doubled in the slot. I was getting doubled at the Z. Like I had a guy over me. I had a guy sitting in the hook curl zone. Then I had a guy like right behind the guy that was guarding me. So that's when I was like, okay, I got some of these teams respect. You know what I'm saying? The only team that it worked on was Case, but that was the first time I saw it. So they held me to 4 catches. That was my lowest game of the year. So I was just in the zone in games, man.
At that time, Case was hitting their stride. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think you played with Jamie on one of those.
Yeah.
So, I think I went to that Case game because y'all hadn't played Case in like 40, 50 years. So Case was hitting their stride at that time.
Yeah, Dan, wait a minute.
Yeah, that man, that was a nice guy. He was nice.
Back to back.
And he was a great quarterback. Him, Tim Caldrick. I actually played with Tim in the All-American Bowl. So I know all about Case. Now, here's what's interesting to me. And this stood out to me the most on your bio. Yeah, you played basketball, 4-year player, football and basketball. Yeah. But you was the first player in Hiram history to get 1,000 yards receiving. How did they even let that happen? Like, you would have thought as decent as Hiram could be and has been in the past, they would have had somebody, but it ends up being you being the first player. What was What was that feeling like when you finally caught wind of what you had accomplished?
Um, it was great, man. Like that whole year, like everything was just like, you break your own record with 15 catches, and 2 weeks later you break a receiving record that you got in the game that you broke another record. So I had 217 with the 15 catches, and then 2 weeks later, uh, I had 220. So you got that, and then we go on like week 7. I find out that I became all-time leader in catches. So you got that, and then 2 weeks later, after game 9, you realize you just went over 1,000 yards with one game left to go. It's surreal, man, because it's something I really wanted to do. I worked my ass off in the summer, working out with Antonio Pittman, and it's just something that I just really focused on, and you dial in, once you figure out the game, and the game really slowed down for me that year, man. I just did a lot of film study. I met with the coaches a lot, man. Just game study, man. I wish I would have took film study as hard as I did, my last year, because I was waking up going to watch film. I was watching it between classes and watching it after classes. Man, you can ask my wife, man. She was right there with me, hating every moment of it. While she tried to, chill with me, and I'm watching film. But yeah, it was surreal, man. Like it really surreal. I mean, it's still kind of chilling to think about it. I mean, even that year, that same year, man, I broke the conference record for most catches in the season. So it was just all coming in, man. I just it was a great year for me, individually.
Yeah, it's got to be surreal to be like, you working hard, you doing what you got to do. Like you said, you putting
Yeah.
that time in the film room. Those sessions we was talking about, the early listening sessions, things like that, and just hard work and grind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you figure you got people out here trying to make certain things happen for themselves or certain goals you have set. And, here you are, you hit it, man, like to have over 1,000 and most receptions and most yards in the game. Like so many things just clicking for you at one time. That had to be like one of the best feelings ever, like you had said. And at the same time, I'm sure that's something that you probably will talk about a little bit later when we talk about the sports academy and stuff like that you kind
Yeah.
of instill in your players that you train, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? So it's just good to hear that, man, to hear somebody who, was from the greater, Akron area and just balling out, you know what I'm saying, doing their thing. And I don't know, man, I'm just touched by it a little bit, really, because it's like there's so many guys that I know who went out there, did their thing, tried their best, maybe didn't get certain accolades like that. Maybe they were in the shadow of someone else or had a
Yeah.
bad injury, you know what I mean? But here you are, man. You blessed, you did your thing. You know what I'm saying? Just hats off to you, really, for making that happen, man. Seriously.
Appreciate it.
You made a lot of history at Hiram, especially at Hiram.
Yeah.
Especially in D3, a lot of people consider Hiram to be a doormat, but they don't realize how good of a school Hiram is just to go. You know what I'm saying? And for you to juggle basketball, juggle football, and your schoolwork,
Yeah.
as a student athlete and as a black student athlete, that's what speaks out the most because
Say that.
you just showed a lot of people, especially the kids that you training, you just showed them it is possible to do.
Oh yeah, I got one kid now that's doing two sports, man. He plays at Ohio Wesleyan, and it's crazy because he's the starting quarterback for Ohio Wesleyan. He's playing basketball. So we had him on our podcast back in March, and I asked him some of the same questions that I got asked, and I'm getting some of the same answers. But it's just rare. A lot of the guys that do two sports, they either are receivers or they're corners. Not just starting quarterback. I asked him, how his head coach felt about that. Starting quarterback playing basketball. He's like he was all open for it. But yeah, man, juggling that and just to travel, man. I think a lot of that gets lost in college sports. Period. Like people don't know the grind of school and going and practicing, and then after practice, watching film that you didn't get told you were going to watch film after practice, or going to get a quick lift in, and then going to eat dining hall, and then when you look up, when you finally get back to your room and it's work time, it's 9:15, something like that, and it's a daily thing. And then depending on where you're playing, your whole weekend's gone because of the travel, and then you look on the Sunday and you're right back in the lab on Sunday watching the game tape and lifting and conditioning, man. So it's all gas, no brakes. People people don't understand that unless you go through it. And we talking about me playing basketball, taking 1 week off, and then hopping right back in on the hoop side, man. And hoop is the longest season of the year because it's from November to March, and my legs is already, by January my legs is beat up. It's days I just had to tell coach, man, like I just need a day off. Uh, or let me go get in the pool, just, mentally draining, and a lot of my teammates on the hoop side really didn't comprehend that, and I'm guarding everybody's best player. So I'm going through screens and chasing people around and picking up full court. So gotta be in shape in that grind. Then you gotta do with the classes and all that, man. It's a grind, man. It was definitely a grind.
And for those of you who haven't experienced both, listen, whether it's turf or grass, and then having to transfer onto the hardwood like that, that is not easy to do. It is not. Different level of, like, different feel, you know what I'm saying? Different ways you plant, like there's technique involved. Of course, leg strength is always important, but it ain't nobody out there, whether you played on grass or turf, and then you go play on the hardwood, that can tell me that wouldn't affect it if you did both. Not one person.
It's a definite struggle. Okay, graduate college, and for whatever reason, I ain't gonna say that now because we all did. You hit the semi-pro scene, and I'm gonna say 3 letters. I want you to give me your best description of those 3 letters. OGK.
Run, Ohio.
I knew it. You all right? You hit the Ohio Golden Knights, and they basically did take Ohio by storm. I'm not gonna sit here and lie, because shout out to Jermaine for putting the dynasty together, because that's exactly what you guys were at the time. What made you jump to Ohio Golden Knights? What was the decision behind that?
What's crazy is, man, one of my boys that I grew up with, we had both just got done playing football. Well, we were both a year removed from playing football. He went to Taylor University in Indiana, and we were back home, and he found out about it, and he went to a practice with Jermaine, and he called me like, hey man, you need to come play with me, I'm like, what is it about? Because I had no idea what semi-pro was. I had no idea. And I go to practice, and I'm like, okay, it's football. We practicing at this old school, and first year, and I'm like, okay, I give this a try, and I still really didn't understand the concept of it, because you're just so used to college and game planning, and I wasn't hip to get my own equipment and uniforms, and who these teams were and where we were playing. Like I just wasn't hip to all that. Like even when the first game we played, it was just like, all right, this is kind of it's easier than college was. So that's really how I got into it. And then after that, it just kind of fell into place after my first year. With how we took off running after that.
Yeah, because you guys were hot, and it was a new team nobody knew nothing about, which was, dare I say, the best part for you guys as a team, because by that point, I think I was my 5th, 6th year in, something like that, and I was like, man, I don't know these dudes, and then I seen y'all play, and I'm like, hey, all right. Is Akron taking over again? Because Akron, let me get that out the way right now. On all my years playing semi-pro, Akron has some of the best teams I had ever played against at that level, and everybody has somebody coming from somebody's college, somebody's NFL system. It was just they knew what they were doing, and they didn't want to look bad in the eyes of the country. So
I think what helped us out after that first year into that year two, 3, and 4, we pretty much had our same. I would say probably 70-80% of our core guys that came back every year, and we just added more pieces. But I would say like 90% of our team all played college ball, like 4 years of college ball, not 1 or 2. So like the experience level was just there, and you could see, man, like it just trickled down. We got smarter, we practiced, and that was another thing, man. Like I think we probably practiced the most out of any team in my pro with numbers. Like I mean, like we were having like 40-50 guys at practice every practice during the winter. Like, wow. And I kid you not, and my OGK guys watching know, like we was deep at practice. It wasn't no 20 guys just 7-on-7. No, we was 40 and 50 guys every practice on Saturday nights from 7 to 9:30 going at it, and it trickled down to the game. And I think once you win the first championship, and then start seeing the floodgates open. But we just found out how to win, man. It was real fun though, playing with them guys, man.
So when it came down to it, Glenn, as far as like the guys that you had who were on teams with you and the experience that you talked about bringing into that type of feel and those practices and whatnot, what was the recruiting piece like? So for you guys, like how did people find out? Was it like, the guys on the teams kind of reached out and say, hey, come with us, and they'll kind of like scout to see the experience that people were bringing in? Like, was it from the coaches level? Like, how did that all happen there?
I think it was a mixture of both. But I mean, man, Jermaine is a hell of a recruiter, man. Like the things that he put together and how it all molded. And I think a lot of people, when they came, he made sure they talked to me, kind of first, and I just told them, hey, we're just trying to win games. Like people couldn't understand how me, Ryan Travis, and Corin Strickland all meshed together, with us coming in from 3 different teams and us being the main guys, the main pass catchers, but we pushed each other, man. Me, Corin, and Trav had this saying, man, because we knew it's only one football going around. We just had this thing where like we're gonna see who could score on the least amount of catches. And
I know that y'all
and that was just how we kept running. But as far as everyone else, man, I feel like we didn't really have to do a lot of stimulus, a lot of recruiting, because a lot of the guys came back, and some guys that came over that probably were starters on other teams came in and just played the role, and they loved it. I mean, like we had the special teams guys for 3 years that just played special teams and just love playing special teams. Like it was just like role guys. I'm thinking like 4 or 5, 6 guys we had that was on every special team that just knew their role. I mean, and how many teams you could say in semi-pro where you got 4 or 5, 6 guys that just want to play, that know they're just going to play special teams until the game is a blowout, and that really took pride in that, So I mean, I think that's what helped us, and we always made sure that those guys knew that they were appreciated. Man, you're only strong as your weakest link, But and if our one guy that's making all these tackles on special teams ain't there, then we missing something. So it was fun with them dudes, man. Like we had a lot of fun.
You got 2 championships out of it too, so it had to be fun. All right, life after football, because I'll say personally for myself, because I have covered you at least once in my career, I'm kind of glad that you did retire. Get that out the way.
What's crazy is like I can still run by a lot of the guys now, man. I think the league would shut down if I came back, man. I'm smarter. I'm smarter.
I know a lot of people.
These dudes ain't the IQ of some of the young boys ain't what it is, and you can't talk me out no game because I don't say nothing, and and I just play, and then when I score, that's when I'm gonna start talking, and then that's when you're done. But yeah, man, I could still play. I'm on better things right now.
I believe it. I'm just glad I got out, and I was glad when you got out because I'm like, man, if I got to see this dude again, I'm done. Tired of this. And he was actually at that point. You were one of the last from my era, receiver wise. That was the last to actually retire. So you had a hell of a career. So, what is life like for you now after football?
Man, it's injury free, man. You don't wake up you don't wake up Sunday mornings, man, hurting and sore. I think because the year I retired, man, I was gonna come back the following year, and man, I just got used to waking up on Saturday and not having to go practice and not worry about a game, man. I traveled a lot that year and spent time with my lady because I just felt like I owed it to her. And when I was thinking about putting the pads back on, man, that's when found out we were having our second child. So I was like, it was hard doing it with one kid and him being an infant and all that type of stuff. But two, nah, I'm not gonna put that burden on her, especially in the summer. Um,
Right.
when she's not working, she's a teacher, so that's her time. So so I just thought I'd help her. But just after that, man, I've been training, man. I was training before that, but man, as far as me training and doing, with my own thing, it took off after I got done with semi-pro, man. So that's what I'm doing right now.
For those that don't know, at that level of football, you travel a lot, and it's
Yeah,
usually on your own. Only teams that's established and been around 40, 50 years get to travel on a bus, or you got a good owner or a good ownership group. But other than that, you do travel a lot.
yeah, man. Like we that last year I played, man. We went to Lima and Indy that same year. I think we went to Lima and Indy within like a 3 week span. So we went to Lima first, then we went 2 weeks later to Indianapolis. Same. It's kind of from
That's
from us. It's like the same drive riding through Mansfield, and then you start heading west, and then you hit cornfields, man. So
man.
yeah, and then it was just, man, like I'm tired of this, man. Like getting like that Indianapolis trip, playing that 8 o'clock game, and then coming back that 4.5 hour drive, and I was like, no, man, like
Yeah, I used to actually just be like, why can't these teams come to us? I'd be complaining the whole game, like, man, y'all coming to us next year. I'm tired of this.
yeah, and it's like I used to ask him the same thing. I was like, why we always got to go on the road to play these tough games? And he was just like, man, it's gonna maybe build some character. I was like, but we never went
I'm the
like
character.
we never went like or had like a really tough game, a conference game at home. Like we always had them tough games on the road, like them trap games. That's what I mean. Like we never had the trap games at home. Like Lima is a trap, no matter what their record is at any point.
Always.
That's a trap, and we know how the refs are in Indianapolis. We already know that. Like that's a stigma about Indianapolis. Anytime you go out there, that the refs is gonna hold you if it's even close. So I'm like,
Let's
dude, we
be
coming out
let's
here.
be clear. The refs don't like us anywhere outside of Ohio. Like,
Yeah,
let's just be clear on that. Yeah, they don't even got to be Indiana. It's Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Michigan. They know you from Ohio. You're getting flagged automatically. You
yeah,
add 3 flags to the game.
Man, I couldn't even imagine traveling, that 4 hours like that, especially after a game. Because me, it's
Well,
funny,
try
like
doing that in the
I'm in
playoffs.
Columbus right now. Oh, a play. Ooh,
yeah. The
no,
playoffs,
see,
okay, but we talking regular season.
I, I hate it. I would do it in the regular season. Me personally, I would rather do it in the regular season than to
Yeah.
do it in the playoffs because like that. Those last 2 good years I had with the Vikings. And shout out to Corn because he's watching.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, man.
those last 2 years, 2 good years with the Vikings, me and Corn, we actually had it in our heads like, man, no matter what we got to do, man, we coming out with a win. We already, especially Lima at that time.
Yeah.
You know how good Lima was. So you already had a disadvantage going there. And then to know these motherfuckers don't practice at all. They literally have a chalk session right before the game
Yeah.
in front of the locker room talking, and the coach be sitting up there talking about, okay, if they do this, this, and this, and this is what we're gonna do. And we've been practicing all week, and we still get pounded.
The
Like,
history of Lima in itself is enough to have some teams
right.
lose the game. You know, like the history of Lima. The longer you stay in football and semi-pro, the more you hear about Lima in the past, Lima teams and all that type of stuff. So going there, knowing the history and all that, where you just say no matter what their record is at the time, that's still a trap game, or it won't surprise anyone if they beat anyone. You know, so going out there is always tough.
And then the worst part about it was at the time, Ronnie, here's something interesting for you. At the time, Lima was good. They were playing at the same stadium Ohio Northern beat Mount Union on back in 05.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ada's War Memorial. That's where they were playing for a long time. And it was like, all right, we're already going to Lima. It's already 4 hours away. And then you see the cannon, and then you see the bulldog and all of this, and you like, damn, wait, this looks familiar. And I just remember one of our coaches was like, hey, I know this place. This is the same stadium Mount Union lost on. I'm like, lost when? Like when Ohio Northern be, hey, this a bitch. All right, so now we got to deal with this. And they come out, Corey Minifield throwing darts.
Yeah, that was the person I heard from Lima was Corey Minifield.
And I hated them games. So tell us about your company, Fix Sports Academy. What's that? And how long you been in business?
Man, that's a training company, man, that me and a few guys started after we left dealing with, another group of guys on the training circuit. And it just came about just one day, like I was out of training for a year and I wanted to get back into it. And, I hit my guy like, man, I want to get back into training, let's get it together. As far as coming up with a whole company name, that wasn't something I was thinking about at the time. He's like, if we're going to do it, let's just do it big. So we came up with the name. When our O-line coach came up with the name. So the acronym for FIX actually stands for Fundamentals, Intelligence, Execution. So those are three, concepts that we try to instill in our kids. So right now we're going into year 4, working with the kids. So just a little bit about it, man. We do speed and agility training, which we're going to start here in a couple of weeks. And then we do football specific skill training. So we work with kids as young as 5 all the way through college. And it's individual skills. You have a quarterback coach that just deals with quarterbacks. You got a running back coach. You got DB coach. You got two coaches per position. So every kid getting that one-on-one individual thing that they need. And what's unique about all of our guys is these are guys that are coming from playing college ball and some professional and we're actually really good. I think if some of like the kids that we work with knew like our coaches like resumes, I think they would be, even some of the parents, like my D-line coach was, player of the year in the city, defensive player of the year as a junior. Running back, coach played at Syracuse, just a lot of, positive guys. Like our linebacker coach played at Akron, started as a freshman. He was teammates with Jason Taylor, so like, it's just like, these guys that played on all these different levels and were successful at it. So it's not like some guys coming off the street, teaching some kids something that they watched, they going off experience and we actually put that work in just to not even just on the field, off the field, just talking what we need to do to get better as a group. What are we focusing on? Like making sure we're on the same page when we do like our one-on-ones, like I'll have the DBs like, hey, I want to see off man today because that's what we gonna work on an individual with our receivers, or let's see cover 2 zones so these guys can, work on swiping their hands when these DBs try to push them inside, and y'all can work on y'all drops. So man, we pushing, man, and if y'all check out my page, man, you can see how a lot of my receivers are doing.
Lighting it up right now. I had to send you a message the other day, man. I was proud of you because you got receivers and actual, the company's got players looking good in the state playoffs. Been looking good all season, actually.
Yeah, man, it's just a blessing, man, and just to have people behind us that support us. The parents, man, they make us go, and now we just gaining more traction with speed and agility and branching out to different areas. Like I know, like through COVID, man, I got reached out by a private quarterback coach who just put me in front of a larger group of receivers, and it's been great, man. They working hard and they having great years too. Like I know you see my guy Luke out there in Medina.
Man, that guy?
That guy. Man, yeah, that he man, he's an animal, man. He's an animal, and it's crazy, man. He coming off ACL last year, so him doing what he's doing. But yeah, man, it's fun, man. I can't wait to get back into it, and just keep pushing year 4, man, and helping these kids get into college. And we got our own scouting service, man, just pushing them through. We got our own podcast, or we highlight the kids and helping them with recruiting and speaking to the parents about the recruiting aspect just in general, from A, B, C, and D. We talking from grades, what you need to qualify, for your clearinghouse, and on all levels, what your ACT need to be, what your grade point average, all that. And man, we just pushing forward, man. I'm excited. I'm happy. I love doing what I'm doing, and we got a lot of support, man, for real.
And with Fixed Sports, man, where is Fixed Sports primarily based out of? Like, do you just have one central area, or are you looking to go around the state, or where's it based out of currently?
So we're based out of Akron, but we have groups that we'll do joint sessions with. Okay. We got a group out of Columbus that we took our kids down last year, and we worked out with a lot of the Columbus kids. I'm talking like some good kids down there in Columbus, and just the whole thing. Like when I started this, I wanted to make sure that we networked with as many guys that do the same thing as we do, because I feel like in this line or this training aspect of it, is too many guys, from what I saw when I first started, that just wanted everything for themselves. Like they didn't want X, Y, and Z amount of guys even working with them. So like the turnover with working with them is bad. But I just wanted to make sure, man, I reached out to as many people as possible. Like, man, I'm reaching out to my guy up there in Cleveland with Good to Great. And, I'm reaching out with Andre out there in Euclid, so man, it's just, I'm pushing, man. I'm just networking. We got the Columbus guys, and got Akron, we got Canton. But I just want to make sure that, when everybody see what we do, and that it's no malice, it's no competition. We're not getting paid off of this. So I'm not living off running this, and I think that's where it's a lot of misconception. I'm not misusing kids for this and that. Like, we actually doing this out of the love, for us, working with the kids, and helping them. Like, and we got coaches that played on all levels, 1, 2, 3, and AIA. So that's relatable to the kids, where if I got a D3 kid that's asking me about Ohio Northern or Oberlin or Marietta or Mount Union or John Carroll, I could tell them, like, yeah, this is that school, playing here, playing there. My business partner played at Tiffin. He played with Nate Washington at Tiffin. So, he talked about the whole D2. Then we got our D1 guys that, they could tell about this and tell about, but it's all the same. But it's just when you can have guys you can come talk to that all been on each levels of the game, and it's relatable, man. I think it makes us unique, because a lot of Kids think it's D1 or bust, and it's not. Especially now, because if you're good, they'll find you. Social media is crazy.
And see, that's the difference, man. Because for me, I had the same mentality, coming up, and it was like, okay, I gotta get a D1 school. I gotta get a D1 school, and there were so many different schools at like the 2 or 3 level, or some that were at the 1 level that were further out, or let's say they weren't as good. So you're like, well, I don't want to be on a team that's not good.
Right.
And little did I know at the time, as long as I had my grades right, and as long as I balled out and did what I was supposed to do on my end, it wouldn't have mattered like what level I was on or who I was playing with or against or whatever. That would have spoke for itself on the field based off of what my performance was like there and also in the classroom. But I didn't
Right.
have anybody or any academies or anything like that to tell me that. It was just like, okay, maybe you know a guy that know a guy who played at that level, or you
Hmm.
got a coach that's really, really in tune with what the next level looks like and has people coming out to like speak to you and stuff like that. But if you didn't have that, that's not something you're gonna get from a guidance counselor. It's not something you're gonna get
No.
from
Right.
just some Joe Schmo off the street, like you said. It's gonna be somebody who's actually been in that position before. So hats out to what you're doing, man. Because my thing is, it's good to give back. It's good to make sure that these young kids got something that they can actually see and be like, hey, here's a guy who did it. You know what I mean? Because there's been some times where I've encountered coaches where they'll talk at you or they'll be like, okay, I've been on this game for however long, whatever. And then you kind of find that like, okay, have you been to where I'm trying to get to though?
Yeah.
Is there something about you that I can resonate with? Like, are you doing something that, I may aspire to do later? You know what I mean? Like, or just kind of just fall in your lap because you was a math teacher. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's totally
Right. Right.
different. It's totally different. So yeah, that's all to you, man. I'm really digging what you're talking about.
I think it's a lot of information out here too. You know,
Hmm.
social media helps. Having access to different types of information helps. But again, you just thinking about the guys that we got that been through the recruiting process, man. I know we talk all the time to our kids about offers. Offers are crazy now, especially on social media. But we talk to the parents and the kids, and we just pretty much break it down like, well, this offer is it committable? Like if you called this school today, would they let you commit? And like the last year or so, year and a half, I've been sharing an article that came out from Sports Illustrated where they actually broke down how crazy the college recruiting circle is with offers, and they pretty much broke it down with a scheme of like the average scholarship offers a school offers a year is around 220. So we think about all the schools in America offering 200 kids a year, and you looking at how they are offering them. Some of them are word of mouth, some of it's through a recruiting service, some of it probably they just saw them in a timeline. You know what I'm saying? So, just explaining that like Tennessee and Syracuse 2 years ago both offered 275 kids. Like that's crazy to think about. So when you explain that to
Yeah.
parents and kids, as far as the ones that's looking for the offers, well, you got to think, okay, offer is good. Um, and then the kids that got the offers, well, you may have 30 offers, but how many of them are committable? So you really gotta measure that out, like who really wants you, you know, and that's
Right.
where the case is where some kids can get lost in the shuffle because they're waiting to commit to a school that really kind of doesn't want them at the time. You know what I'm saying? And then the school that really wants them at the time, they miss out, and another kid that's on a similar level commits, and now you just lost that out. So now your options are dwindling as far as your school choices. But yeah, it's a lot of information out here. We even break the film down on what the coach is actually looking for. Just little stuff that'll separate you from the next. With routes, I mean, even my guys, I tell them hand placements. Like my guy Luke, that I've been posting like all summer. Me and him worked on separation. His thing was, Medina throws the ball all over the place, right? And
Hmm.
games he struggled with last year was against Mentor, Euclid, Solon, and St. Ed's. His biggest thing was the boys came out and manned him up. He's a big guy, so he was trying to use his body to separate, and he struggled a little bit. All summer, we just worked on hand placement, man, hand placement and dipping and ripping. Mentor comes out, 11 catches, 104, 2 touchdowns. Euclid, 3 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. You saw Brunswick, 10 catches, 181, 2 touchdowns. Last week, Edge, 5 catches, 63 yards, 3 touchdowns. These are all the games that we worked on all summer to prepare you for where you at right now. So, that's just some guys that I work with, but I got, guys that they all do the same thing where they got guys that worked on some and they are all flourishing right now. So that's the biggest thing that we really try to focus on is improvement, and then with me traveling to the games, and because I'm really the only one out of all my guys that's not a high school coach. So that helps too, as far as the parents go. Like, he's a coach here, he's a coach there, he's a coach there. And we got a really diverse group. And we got coaches at Akron East, St. V, Shaker Heights. We all over, so me traveling, and I travel just not to watch the game, but just to see, like, all right, are you developing what we worked on? I want to see that, and it comes to a point where, like, Friday nights are crazy with text messages from the kids. Like, they'll send me game film, or if I'm at the game, like, what you think, what you need to work on. They think I'm coming out talking about the touchdown they had. I'm just talking about the pass you dropped, or the time you got pushed out of bounds on this fade route, but you wasn't on the numbers. You was outside the numbers, so you made it hard for yourself. So I focus on all the negatives first and then push forward. But yeah, man, it's fun doing this, man. I love doing it, man. It keeps me up and it keeps me going forward.
That's what's up, man.
Blessing, and that's a true blessing. Quick update: Arizona Monday Night Football. Arizona is up on Dallas 7-0. Christian Kirk just scored on a reverse run for touchdown, 13 yards. So Arizona draws first blood. We'll see how it turns out for Dallas. But as of right now, Arizona's up 7-rip. I didn't have anything else, man. I'm just happy to see you. You out here grinding, and we had been talking. We had to get you on the show because local guys, and we wanted to reach out to the local people so they see, it still can be done. Just because you're not in the NFL or you're not, at a D1 school, don't mean you still can't shine. So I'm proud of you. I'm happy with the success. Once I get this editing thing down, we'll probably go back into bringing you on the show and show some things of the business side of what you got going on. But
Definitely,
it was great to see you, putting up the videos of the kids because they look pretty damn good, and they're shining right now.
yeah, man. I'm going, man, and like I said, man, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. I'm gonna have to get y'all on our podcast and invite y'all down to some of these training sessions that we got coming up this year. I can see how we get down, and invite y'all to my QB wide receiver stuff out in Macedonia too, man. So y'all can see a different aspect, and y'all can see some of these top quarterbacks, man, that's in the area, man. That my guy got. Top quarterback, you name him, he got him in Northeast Ohio. But yeah, man, I appreciate y'all. Man, make sure, everyone that's listening, man, follow Fix Sports Academy on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you know someone that wants some work, man, just shoot me a message and we'll work all the details out, man. Like I said, we're not in this for money. We know our situation economically, especially now. Yeah, man. And like I said, I appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely, man.
Great to have you on, man. Welcome back anytime.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. You have a good night. Stay blessed. Tell the family, give them my regards, and we'll see you again.
Appreciate it, man. Y'all have a good night, man.
Hey, you too, Glenn. Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
All right. That was G-Cam, Glenn Campbell, special guest, Fix Sports Academy. It's great what he's doing with the kids, man. I'm happy, seeing him out there. Good friend. So it's just good to see that. You know what I'm saying? See guys out there still giving back, making sure the kids actually get where they going.
And that's the thing, man, because we've had a great run of people on the show, and just seeing how humble they are and what they're doing, what they love. You can tell they actually love being a part of whatever sport it is, whether it's football or the combat sports that we've covered and things like that. It's just cool to see that they're willing to not only join us on the show and kind of talk a little bit about that, but just how they have a soft spot in their heart for kids and just giving back to the community or trying to help train them up in ways that they did not have the opportunity to be trained up in. And Glenn mentioned a good point, man. So you figure with social media influence and stuff like that, it's a lot easier to get yourself out there, and also for coaches to reach out to you to change the whole perspective on recruiting and things like that we didn't have coming up. You know what I mean? So it's just a blessing, man. And
Right.
to have someone like that, especially his age, being a little bit younger than us, and to be so mature and to see what he's doing, it's just really cool to be a part of that or to be able to have that conversation with him, man.
Yeah, that's really good, and hoping to keep in contact with him so we can see the progress. Another quick
Definitely.
update: turnover. Ezekiel Elliott just fumbled, and the ball goes back to Arizona, and it's
Sorry.
11:47 left in the second quarter. Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's on Dallas's side of the field, so that means Kyler
Mm,
Murray and the Cardinals are driving, and it's just looking like it might be a bad day for Dallas. I hope not, but it looking like it might be that way.
See,
Um,
I gotta ask you
okay,
this,
first,
man.
all right,
Gotta ask you this because it seems like this season, and I really feel bad saying this because you know Zeke is a good player, man, but it's just hard to see the turnovers that he's given up this year and some of the key parts of not only the game but just positioning on the field because there's a couple of ones that he did against Cleveland even when they played Dallas and the type of field position they got after that happened. Like, do you think he, like many other players, are being affected by the pandemic?
of course,
Because his
because
play has
we've
just
been
been
talking
off
about
this
this
season.
but we've been talking about this all season, man. It's at a point where you not your mind. Number one, everybody's mind isn't completely in it, and it shows. Number
Hmm.
two, you ain't had the practice time that you normally have with OTAs. Uh, in college, you get spring practice and spring games. You're missing a lot of that time. So a lot of your dedication and practice and being able to work your craft is taken from you, unfortunately,
Yeah,
due to circumstances you control. So, I mean, yeah, it's affected everything, but it's not nothing you can't bounce back from. And I just think I'm at the point now watching these games, watching the NFL, watching baseball, watching basketball. You have to push through, and there are some teams that are pushing through, like the Browns. Even though yesterday was a bad day for them, they're still pushing through. The Cardinals are pushing through. Everybody still got to push through. Hell, you look at Buffalo. Buffalo's having a tremendous season, even though they just lost to Kansas City. So it's just a matter of getting yourself mentally back to where you were had this been a normal season. Because
true.
you know, it's almost like it's almost like you know Friday the 13th. Dare I say? You got shit that's really weird happening. People or teams are losing to teams they normally wouldn't lose to. Uh, no fans in the stadium, kind of weird, but
Yeah.
it's the hand that you're dealt. So because it's the hand that you're dealt, you have to roll with it. Since we're talking about that, Steelers. Steelers hand the Browns a tremendous ass whooping yesterday, and the first thing I saw on my timeline after the game was get rid of Baker or sit Baker and play Case Keenum, and uh, Colin Coward even said today that Baker's holding the Browns back. I don't think
Mm.
that's the case, but I'm gonna ask you: do you feel like that's the case watching yesterday's game?
No, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like the man was hurt. Like it's funny because like when you and I were talking during the game about that, I honestly felt like he shouldn't have played yesterday just based off of the injury. Because for him, it's like we're in a position now where with Cleveland, having a 4-1 start at the time or whatever, you have to think more long term now because you figure you got a team where the talent is there. Yes, they definitely have some more work to do, obviously, after seeing yesterday's game, but they lack depth right now on both sides of the ball. And with Teller being out, and Odell, had issues with his illness, whatever he was dealing with, and then also Baker having that rib injury, which for those of us that know about quarterbacks, there's a lot of twisting and turning going on in your torso, man. Different throws that you would step into or add more velocity. You're gonna, twisting and turning and throwing across your body in front, over the top, whatever you got to do to get the ball to those receivers. And there's a lot of rib action happening. And with him, I'm thinking like in terms of okay, this was only the sixth game, and you still got 10 more games to play. And you figure up on your schedule, you got Cincinnati and a couple of teams where you can definitely have a strong chance of going to the bye week 6-2. I felt like yesterday, yes, it was Pittsburgh. You definitely want the best of your best out there, whoever you have to represent, to try to go out there and play. But I guess thinking long term, I felt like yesterday may have been the day to say, hey, let's rest him up. Let's make sure that he's fresh for, Cincy and the other game after that to go into a 6-2 record going into the bye week. Let's not take that shot against, a very athletic defense that has a very dangerous pass rush with just the front four. Let's just call it what it is, and just give Keenum that chance to just play yesterday. To replace him completely, I don't think that's something they need to worry about right now. I do feel like he was just trying to play through and be tough and be old school with it and all of that. But the type of blows he was taking from that group of guys, and we all know how physical the AFC North is or whatever. Like I can only imagine what he had when he went home, and how he was feeling or whatever. And the coach decided to pull him third quarter with how busted up he was. I just feel like for the sake of that is why I wouldn't have played him yesterday. Not to be like, oh, let's replace him and let's go with Keenan the last 10 games. I ain't feeling that. But just for yesterday, I probably would have. But I feel like they're in a good position, man. It's just you got to get knocked down sometimes and really know where you at. It sucks that they
And,
took on not only Pittsburgh yesterday, but then you got Baltimore that first game of the season, and these top teams like that you're going up against, and to get thrashed the way that you are against those type of teams and beating the other teams that you're supposed to, beat, it definitely puts you in a better position because you're like, all right, if we're going up against the elite of the elite and we're getting hit like that, we definitely got more work to do. But if we're beating teams that we're supposed to beat, that's also a good sign too, because look at last season and the season before, you weren't even beating those teams. I mean, you were still dropping games to
right.
teams that you should have won. So now you finally won 4 games you were supposed to win. You have 2 games that nobody really felt 100% that you were going to win, but had a chance, right? So I like where they are right now. They're still above 500. They still can do, playoffs and stuff like that. They're not out of it. You know what I'm saying? And it would be interesting to see down the stretch what they do. But yeah, to say we should move on from Baker right now, I don't think that's the case. You got to remember, here's a guy in his third year with his third system. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like you don't have
And
a
that's a
system to grow into.
very important point. That is a
Yeah, that's like
very
that's not
important
fair.
point. And I want everybody else to understand this too. The Browns this year are already in a better position than they were through the Freddie Kitchens era and the Hugh Jackson era combined.
Yep.
And for our Browns fans, viewers, followers, whatever, they are still 4-2. They're still 2 games above 500. Number one. Number two,
Hmm.
they're still third place in the division, which means all they have to do really is correct the mistakes that they had against Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Because if you look at that game yesterday, there was a lot to take away from it. My first takeaway was uh, the Browns defensively can make plays against teams like Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
And they did
And
yesterday.
granted, and they did. And granted, it was tough on them because, the offense didn't really help them.
Man.
And a lot of those turnovers were on the Brown side of the field or close to the Brown side of the field, which gave the Steelers short fields. And we all know Ben does not do, Ben ain't a sucker when it comes to playing on a short field. So the first part was the defense can actually hold their own if the offense helps them out. That's the first thing. The second thing was there has to be some continuity with the offense. And what I mean by that is there has to be something that keeps the offense on the field longer. Like we saw it in the game against Dallas. They ran the ball. They balanced it out with the pass when they needed to, or when they had the chance. Second and two, third and one. You can do things like you can still throw the ball in short yardage situations.
Exactly.
A lot of the times they were in long yardage situations, second and 8, third and 8, third and 10, third and 12. You can't really put yourself in those type of positions and think it's going to be okay because it's not. You're still going to be stuck in a situation where you have to throw the ball. Now, mind you, combined, the running attack got 77 yards, which is 10 yards under what Pittsburgh allows, but still, it was enough to where they were still able to move the ball on the ground. And my thing was, you can't keep getting away from the run game too often when you're in bad situations. Look at the first quarter. Look at the first quarter. You were only down 10-0 after the pick six from Minka Fitzpatrick. So because of that, you were still able to drive, get a long drive going. And it was almost like they gave up on the run. And I didn't like that.
Yep, they did. And here's what me for a loop. Because you figure if your team gains 77 yards, okay, on 20 carries, right? First of all, you only carried 20 times the whole game, right? So that's split in between all the different backs that you had or whatever. And for those of you who like to do math, that's almost 3.9 yards per carry, which isn't a bad average versus a really good run defense. So you gotta ask yourself, okay, why not run the ball more? You know what I mean? I get it. Zeller was out, and we know how important it is to have your interior linemen, especially in your run game, because you got the zone blocking scheme that you're using right under Callahan. You also have the fact that there's certain blitzes that you may not be able to pick up. The stunt is going to be a little bit weird as well too, because of footing and whoever else is out there trying to play at that position that doesn't normally play it, because Hubbard was playing. And me, I'm not sold on Hubbard at all. So I was just sitting there looking like, all right, so Hubbard's at his guard position. I'm a little nervous about this. We'll see what happens, right? So Pruitt was just giving him problems all game. And I was like, okay, well, that's not a matchup I want to see. And it was funny because they could pretty much keep him in that position the whole time, where if you watch Pittsburgh's previous games, normally their defensive line shifts across. They flip around a lot, you know what I mean, to give different looks. Yesterday, they didn't have to do that. It was like, okay, you the guy on the left, you the guy on the right, y'all the ones in the middle. Do what you do. Stunt or not stunt, it don't matter. Go for it, have fun, whatever. That's what it looked like yesterday. And just seeing how
And
important it is to
I
have
did
guys in there. And think about this
I
too.
did want to point
We
this
already
out.
saw this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I did want to point this out yesterday. I did say in my article going into this week against the Steelers that they usually save the exotic stuff for Cleveland. And you saw that multiple times. The most notable time was the pick six from Minka Fitzpatrick, where he came down in a robber position and basically just baited Baker into throwing the hooper, and he took off with the ball the other way for 6 points. So, that's a thing where I see that Baker struggles with. He's bad I'm not gonna say he's bad. He has a lot of trouble identifying the defense pre-snap, and they actually did very well at disguising the defenses and the coverages. So a lot of those situations, especially the Fitzpatrick interception, he was in a situation where he didn't know what the coverage was until the coverage hit him. What I mean
Mm-hmm.
by that is pre-snap. Most quarterbacks are looking for the coverage pre-snap. And Pittsburgh has done very well all season with disguising coverages and, disguising the way the defense is actually going to align or where they're going to end up. So in this game, you saw that this could be a very bad situation if they don't correct this. And Stefanski has to do something with Baker, sit him down like Belichick used to do Brady, uh, tell him, make sure it's pre-snap or check down a little bit more to the next receiver. Something's got to be said to him, or something's got to get in his head to where he understands when you're playing teams like Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you're not gonna see all of the normal shit. You're gonna see the exotic shit, the shit that they haven't shown on film. And once you see that, you are gonna be in a position where you can make better plays. But until that happens, he's gonna get hit. He's gonna get beat because he got beat up yesterday on
Yeah, he
top of
got
what was
busted.
already wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
So
He got
this, I'm glad they made the decision to sit him down. But at the same time, I still need to see Baker in a solid position on his own, meaning he doesn't have to rely on Stefanski or Odell or Jarvis to bail him out. He makes the play on his own because a lot of
yep.
times Jarvis, Dale, Kareem, Hooper, Njoku, Chubb even are bailing him out in certain plays where he should be making that play himself. That's just me. That's just what I see. But, you know, again, like you said, it's his third system. Shouldn't be his third system, but that's front office's fault. And I'm not going to put all the blame on him, but some of this has to go on him as far as understanding in the game situation. You have to understand what the defense is going to do. Even if you've never seen it or haven't seen it yet, you have to understand they're not going to always throw normal stuff at you. They're going to throw stuff you ain't seen on film yet because that's what
Exactly.
good teams do. They'll save the shit that they want to shoot, they want to show you for you. And every year the Browns play the Steelers, that's how it's been. It's been like that since they came back. They save the
And
good stuff for Baltimore and because they know it's going to be a time where they have to use it in order to make the plays that they've made yesterday. I just
true. And those
four
are
and two
crucial
still
games they
ain't
need to
bad,
win too.
right? And they're not there yet, but at the same time, you're in a position to where you can be there. You got the
Mm-hmm.
Bengals coming up next week, and honestly, I don't expect the Bengals to lie down. This could be another. Well, the trap game was the Steeler game because you knew. Honestly, I was wrong on this, and I'll be the first person to admit it. Yes, I am a Steelers fan, but given that the Browns were on a 4-game win streak, I was under the assumption that if they ball control and they keep the ball on the ground to where they kept Pittsburgh's defense honest, they had a
Mm-hmm.
chance to win. Clearly, I was wrong because I knew I knew it was going to be tough to run on the Steelers, but at the same time, I knew if you ran it enough, the Steelers have to respect it.
Yep. And that's the
77
thing they
yards
didn't.
ain't right. And 77 yards combined ain't bad. It's not. But when your star running back is out, with like Chubb is, and Kareem's carrying the load, and they already know he has to carry the load, it causes a
Mm-hmm.
problem. The problem is the problem is oh shit. Ooh. Okay. Sorry about that. The problem is with Pittsburgh, you don't know who's gonna be where and where they're coming from.
Yep.
And I know that sounds crazy, but well, to most people, I know that sounds crazy, but you have to understand the Steeler defense. The Steeler defense is all about pressure. That front seven is going to apply as much pressure as possible. So your quarterback might end up getting hurt. You got T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Devin Bush, who sadly went down with an injury. But at the same time, you got so many people waiting to get at you. You don't know where that pressure is going to come from, and you don't know what the coverage is going to look like. And that's the
Yep.
scary part about this Steelers. And you got to see them again. They got to come to Cleveland. Baltimore has to come to Cleveland as well. So um, I'm expecting a better game from on both sides, offensively and defensively. I'm expecting a better game round two, but for Baker, and this is just for Baker, I think he has to really take those games as serious as he took every other game. And I'm not saying he didn't, but you're going in with injuries. You're going in, your mind ain't there because you hurt. So you're worrying about getting hurt even more. They
Yeah, he
know
was
that.
worried.
And that and now that they know that, or at the fact that they knew that, they're pinning their ears back. They don't care about your well being. Not like you said, with Teller being out, that was a big thing too. Because not only does that help out in the run game, that's your pass blocking too.
Hmm. Easier to collapse
So
that pocket. And we saw this too, Mel, back when they traded. So when they made that trade and they got rid of Zeitler, right? Because you figure Chubb easily would have had over 1,000 yards rookie year. But then with Zeitler coming out, you saw the difference in the run game last year, with him not being there. And what that did,
right.
of course, they adjusted obviously later on in the season, but early on, you could tell like, okay, this dude must have been really important. You've also seen it too in past years. If you go a little further back, when Alex Mack went over to Atlanta, and what that did to the
It
interior
was
line as well
it was
too.
terrible
It
down.
was that was the worst.
Big down.
That was probably a worse hit than losing Teller. To be honest with you, that was a way worse
Yeah.
hit. Um, just the QB center exchange was garbage as well. I mean, you figure you can't even snap the ball right. What you gonna do? So stuff like that, or them calling out the blitzes and whatnot, man. Totally different players, right? Now, granted, since then the adjustments have been made. The line is actually decent, so that was cool to see. But I'm hoping that next time when they meet, Chubb is back by then. You got some guys a little bit healthier on defense or whatnot. Because yesterday I was like, man, I didn't know Joseph and Harrison was out. I was just like, geez, who playing back there?
About
Because
down.
you got
It was
Sandeo
terrible.
and Dinwiddie, whatever. Man, he got to.
Dale got to go, bro.
Speaking of which,
I'm not even a Browns fan. I'm saying he got to go. Oh wait, quick
speaking of
update.
which, let's
Kyler Murray, the quick.
go ahead.
Hold up. Kyler Murray, the Christian Kirk, 80-yard touchdown. Cardinals are up 21-0. 4:27 left to go in the second quarter.
Oh Lord, here we go. Here we go. Against the league's worst defense.
Hey man, I
Run that
did not
spot.
expect this. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I did not expect this. I thought the Dallas was gonna put up more of a fight than this. It's bad, man. Kyler, 80 yards, man. And Christian Kirk caught that with his fingertips and kept going, bro. Like,
Mm,
it's
mm,
bad.
mm, mm.
It's bad. You 21 before halftime. If this was a Madden game, he had to give up the sticks.
Oh yeah, definitely be done with it. And my thing is with them, man, you figure the games that they've fallen behind so quickly, when you look at them, has been based off of these turnovers, man. It's just a takeaway game for
Yeah,
them. If they can not turn the ball over,
yeah.
they have a stronger chance, man. But they keep turning the ball over. Every game they got a turnover, bro. Every single game this season they got a turnover, or at least two. That's crazy.
Hey,
How you expect to win if you're giving the ball
I
up?
got. I don't know. I don't know. And
Like that's crazy.
it's crazy to it's crazy to say this, but this got some truth to it. Even with Dallas being as bad as they are at the moment, they are still the best team in the NFC East.
That's
That's
true
not
too.
saying a lot, and that's not saying a lot. But think about this. Even with that, Andy Dalton is now the best quarterback in that division.
Oh man.
So
Speaking of that
I'm
division,
sure.
speaking of that division, I was hoping, and this is like a lot of hope, right? I was hoping they could have pulled it off yesterday against Baltimore. Just making a small little comeback. It was like a little engine that could,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying, trying to get there. And it was like, we're going to get this touchdown. We're going to get there. We're going to go back on
for the
defense
2 points.
because they had like 3 or 4 minutes, man. It was possible because their defense hasn't been terrible all year, has not.
Hmm.
But like when it came down to it, it was just like, okay, well, it's Baltimore's offense, your defense. I mean, it's just a different outcome, man. And I looked at it, I was like, man, they actually came within a couple points of these dudes. And the fact that they were able to show that they could do that does speak volumes considering how the offense has been on their team this year. I feel like they definitely have something to do with that defense. That defense should be proud of what they've accomplished so far. But I don't know, man. These little close games have been happening, like you said, with COVID and all that. You can just kind of tell. But speaking of games, man, and I don't know if he was about to touch on this or not, but I'm definitely excited for this Tennessee Pittsburgh game. Really excited for that.
I am too. I'm also nervous as
That's gonna be a
shit,
banger.
man.
It's gonna be a banger. They
Oh,
got depth too,
Derrick
man.
Henry,
That's gonna be a banger.
Derrick Henry went for 90 yards on one play, man. 90 yards on one play. I love the Steelers defense, but I'm not sold on just, you know, first off, it's a multitude of things we got to worry about as a team. And I know that sounds crazy, but let's look at the reality here. At the current moment, if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee's running the AFC South. And it
They're
don't look
killing it
like they're
right
going to let
now.
go of control.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is uh, Derrick Henry is a man playing amongst Pee Wee kids. You saw what he did to Josh Norman. The internet ain't let up off this dude yet.
Oh no, never,
On top of that,
never.
on top of that, Ryan Tannehill has been playing balls out. Like he has been looking really good these last few games. Now,
Hmm.
granted, this might be the trap game for Pittsburgh, but at the same time, I think with Ben playing, Juju playing the way he has, Chase Claypool surging out, being a standout rookie, I think I'm not gonna say this is a shootout, but I think this is gonna be game of the year as far as the regular season goes. I'm just to me, it seems like it's too much going for both teams for this to be a shitty game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And and with them two playing, I'm assuming outside of the Devin Bush injury, everybody's going to come in healthy on both sides. This is going to be a hell of a game, and I can't wait. I just hope for entertainment's sake, I just hope they don't make this game look as bad as the Browns game or dare I say any game against in an AFC South team will be if they got to play against. No, I'll say the Bills game because the Bills game I thought the Bills were going to put up a bigger fight, with the defense that they have. I thought they was going to
Yeah,
really not handle, but be able to slow him down enough to where they make Ryan Tannehill make plays, and that didn't happen. And Josh Norman was prime suspect of that. So I'm hoping defensively the Steelers basically do what they did against the Browns, throw out the exotic stuff, and we'll see what happens from there.
well, I'll tell you one thing. As long as they ain't got Joe Hayden covering AJ Brown, they'd be all right.
Ooh, but that could be a good. You know what? Let's look at
Because that's a
reality,
that's
man.
a big physical. That man, AJ Brown's a
He
freak.
is,
That dude.
but here's the thing, though. Joe Hayden ain't been playing bad, man. Ever since he left Cleveland, he has not been playing bad.
That's true.
Give him his
Now I will
credit.
say this: the
Give,
only thing he needs to get better at is not biting on them double moves, man. Because he
Oh man,
bites
that's been
hard.
his stigma.
You see, here's
It's
a
been
good
his
example
stigma
for you,
since.
and this is when he was in Cleveland. Remember that touchdown Cecil got on him?
Yeah, I
That double
remember.
move. He been. You know what? The thing is, he's so aggressive in his style of coverage because you could see it yesterday where he'll be given a certain assignment, but they give him the freedom to be able to play off of his instincts. And at times he will get a lot of deflected balls or even a pick, but there's times when he'll bite and he'll leave open those guys for like a 10-yard gap. And it's just one of those things where it's like Russian roulette. Either it happens for you or it don't. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like
and that
looking at it.
and that's the downside. That's the downside of being a corner, though. You have to gamble at some point. You can't just be conservative. And at some point, against good receivers, you have to play aggressively enough to where you can make that play. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's been Joe's since Florida, but it's also paid off. So whether it pays off or not, this game against the Titans, we'll see.
Hmm.
But I'm not expecting him to. I'm not expecting them to just leave Joe on an island either. I expect them to
No.
show. I'm expecting them to show a lot of exotic coverages like they did against the Browns, and I'm expecting them to put Joe in a position to where if he does have to make the play, he's able to make the play.
Hmm. Speaking of defensive backs,
All
here's your update.
right.
So, those of you who want Sendeo out of Cleveland, go to change.org. There's a petition up to get this man out of Cleveland. I am not making a joke of this. It is called the Andrew Sendeo out of Cleveland petition. They're looking for a goal of 2,500. So far, there's an update of 2,377 people have signed it out of
God damn.
2,500. Now, here's the thing. Initially, I had a goal of 500, and they noticed that they went to about 13, and they had to increase the goal. So we're closing in right now on 2,500. I myself am going to add my name live on the show to this list. Okay. So Ronnie, first name, last name, Hennigan. Okay. Email. I'm gonna
That's
put
a
my
damn
Gmail in
shame.
there. I am doing this live on the air right now. So, all right,
Oh my
got my
god.
Gmail in there and saying that I am in the greater Gahanna area. All right. And I will be the 2,378th person to sign this petition. So that's change.org. Okay. And it is the Get Andrew Sendeo out of Cleveland petition. So for those of you who want to participate, please go on there. Just put it out there. And I just signed it to let you know. I just want to show everybody. Look at that. See that?
That is a
This is me
damn
signing
shame.
the petition right there. Just wanted to put that out there, y'all. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I had to take a moment. My bad.
Oh
My
my
bad.
god. That's funny. That is funny.
I said he was trash
Yeah,
from the beginning,
that
and you already know.
I get it. Believe me, I get it. But the
Yeah.
fact that you took time
I did.
on the air
Yep.
to sign it, not only sign it, but like get detailed in it is what's funny. Like I get it.
Hey,
The
we all
dude
got to
is
do our
terrible.
part. We all got to do our part. This is me doing my. This is me doing my
We
part.
all got to do our
Oh man, I'm
Oh my
sorry. I had
god.
to do it. I had to do it, man. I had to. Had to.
Terrible, bro. This shit is terrible. Oh man. Okay. Moving right along. College football. We saw some things. We heard some things.
Hmm.
Biggest thing out of this weekend was that Bama once again handles business against your dogs. And for a while, I honestly thought the dogs were handling business enough to pull out the win. But alas, Bama pulls it out. What did you take away from that game?
From that game, just watching along, man, it just felt like, first of all, they came out super flat second half. Statistically, Georgia has not had a good third quarter all season. So I wasn't too surprised with the way it went in that moment. But to get blanked the whole second half, that part I didn't expect. I know that they have a lot of inexperience when it comes to the receiving core and then some key guys or whatever because they're playing a bunch of freshmen pretty much and maybe some second year people. And Pickens obviously has not matured yet, which we've seen. So they have a lot of work to do on that side of the ball. I was actually surprised they got away from the run. I felt like this was the game where Zamir White ran his best all season. Even against Tennessee, they were
Right.
struggling with him to get the ball going. And finally, they're busting out a lot of decent runs against Bama at that time frame. And also seeing Cook get the ball a lot in the receiving game because him catching the ball out of the backfield was just crazy. Like Bama had no answer for that dude in the first half, and it was something that Saban had said before he went to the locker room. He was like, "We got to get an answer for number four." He's like, "We can't keep letting that happen because that dude was ready to catch the ball at any given moment." And it was to the point where
Yeah,
Stetson
he
had
was.
got away from throwing to Jackson and was trying to throw to Cook a lot more too. Speaking of which, I don't know what happened to why Jackson had to change his jersey because if you notice, he came out second half wearing number 30 with no name on the back. I don't know if he ripped it or
Right.
something happened, but they didn't really talk about it. Like, "Oh, he's back there wearing number 30." I'm like, "What? Number 30?" So that was kind of
I
weird,
think
but
it did get
I
ripped.
feel like okay, that made more sense then. But the thing is, man, with this team, you figure they've been doing a lot when it comes to the turnover game. They forced a lot of turnovers this season so far, so they're doing decent on defense. Yesterday, I felt like, not yesterday, but Saturday, they did a poor job against the run. They've always been good against the run, and this is one of those games where they kind of just fell back a little bit, gave up too many large plays on the ground. And then when it came to the passing attack, they just bit a little bit too hard on a lot of the play action, things like that, because you do have to respect Alabama's run game. So there was a lot of different factors in there. And what we've noticed from the beginning is that between Kirby Smart and between Nick Saban, it's just one of those things where Saban is on top of it when it comes to making these adjustments. He is somebody who is heavily involved on both sides of the ball, all aspects of the game. Kirby is someone who more so speaks more to the defense. I feel like because it's always been his thing, defense, and being a defensive back in college, and then also, being a defensive coordinator all those years for those championships for Alabama. It's just something that he just speaks to more. But he has to be more involved in his team than just one side of the ball, and that definitely showed on Saturday night. Will they bounce back from this? Yes. They do have a bye week coming up.
Yeah, they
They
will.
got they got Kentucky on Halloween night or Halloween day. I should say it's like 3:30 or whatever. But the thing is, they'll probably see each other again, like in the SEC championship or whatever, since they're on opposite sides. Um, I'm hoping that they finally figure it out because they have a really, really young offense. So I'm hoping that they actually continue to get these snaps in. You know what I mean? Grow together and just we'll see what happens from here. But seeing how well Bama was, man,
And
Devontae Smith, oh my goodness, man, that dude's a monster.
but you know what? Here's the thing. Like I said, it's always the recruiting battle with Bama, and that's the main problem that the SEC has right now. Outside of that, call me crazy, but I think Bama's going to fall before the SEC championship comes. I do not think. I do not think with the schedule that they have in the division,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they go through this year undefeated. If they do, we won't expect. It won't be a surprise, rather. But weird shit has happened all season so far. And
True.
because weird shit has happened all season so far, I am expecting someone out of the SEC to put down Alabama before the SEC championship. Will that change anything? Probably not. But if it's LSU, if it's Auburn, it might. But it remains to be seen. I just feel like if it wasn't Georgia, it would have been LSU or Auburn. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when the time comes.
True.
Um,
Because you
outside
figure,
of that,
man, well, just thinking about like what they've been doing so far this year. So you figure they're a team that normally gives up a lot more yards on the ground, which is something rare for them because normally they're a team that could stuff it. But over the last few years, with Smart being gone, they haven't really adjusted to that part of the game yet. But they are a team also that can average 40 points a game. So you figure if you're averaging somewhere between 40 to 42 points a game, even with you giving up all this yardage and things like that, it's going to come down to games like this where you just simply outscore your opponent. And I think that's what's been working in their favor with the games they have played so far. But just seeing how much they've given up in terms of like on the ground and then some big plays in the air, I do feel like if you have a more experienced offense or an offense that is able to be more complete that does play against them, then yeah, they definitely will knock them off. I mean, we saw that with Ole Miss. You know, they
mm-hmm,
definitely got way more experience on the offense side of the ball, and it showed against Alabama. They just didn't have the defense to keep up, but they would have had that D out there. That game would have been done like second, third quarter, bro. They was giving it to them.
yeah,
They was definitely giving it to them.
yeah. Okay, outside of the SEC, we go jump to some even better news. The Big Ten starts play this weekend, and honestly, I'm excited. I'm happy. Buckeyes, we finally get Buckeye football back. And first test for the Buckeyes is Nebraska. Do you think? Well, first question rather is what is your final prediction for the Buckeyes this season? And what do the Buckeyes need to do to actually make their way back into the college playoff?
I feel like the biggest thing is it's all going to come down to how Justin Fields plays. Because like last year, I was very critical of him only because of what I saw before he transferred. I know he still has some work in terms of like, okay, um, not getting too rattled in situations where he's getting hit a lot and things like that. Him avoiding that, him getting more opportunities to bounce outside of the pocket and whatnot. Because what people don't realize about him is he is a really good quarterback when it comes to staying in the pocket. He doesn't have to run. He can, but he doesn't have to. He's one of the few dual threat type of quarterbacks that actually doesn't really use his feet that much, which is pretty cool to see. Um, I feel like he would have to do some more of that again this year. I would like for him to have more attempts at throwing the ball as well because he definitely has improved his accuracy in the mid throw and long game. But it's going to come down to him, I feel like, mostly. With the defense, there are a lot of guys who got drafted, so it'll be interesting to see what they do, especially in the secondary. And then the offense themselves, I mean, that line was young last year, so they'll be solid when it comes to the offensive line. I do not know who it is that'll be their main guy when it comes to their rushing attack, but I do feel like it is going to come down to Fields and what he does. They had a lot of depth last year in wide receiver, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But it's going to be more so on him than it ever was in previous years, or just last year, I should say. So it's going to come down to how well he plays ball. I feel like they'll be driven away like Clemson is driven by Lawrence and what he does. It's going to be very similar. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes out, the adjustments that he makes, and whether or not he too was affected by what's currently going on as far as the late play and not having the spring games and things like that. So it's going to come down to Fields more than people believe.
Honestly, I see a Big Ten championship in the future. Um,
I agree with you.
here's why I'm making this prediction, and the prediction I'm making is because this has been a crazy year. We know that it's no secret. So because it's been a crazy year, SEC's been playing, ACC's been playing, a lot of weird shit has been going on, and because a lot of weird shit has been going on, there's been a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of you know scenarios that didn't play out the way people thought they would. And this could be beneficial to the Buckeyes as far as the late play. Because conference only schedule, so you have to toughen up right away. But majority of their tough games or trap games are at home. So I don't think that's a bad thing. Like this Nebraska game, traditionally they've been undefeated a big against Nebraska since Nebraska entered the Big Ten. But if this was going to be a year to show that you belong in the college playoff, this would be it. Uh, the Penn State game for me, there's two games that stand out
Mhm.
that I feel are really going to stand out for Ohio State. The first game is the Penn State game. The game after that, honestly, is going to be the games against Illinois and Michigan State. Because once you get past, well, first off, Illinois is a rivalry game. So it's a traditional rival.
Mhm.
Once you get past Illinois, you have to turn around and go back up to East Lansing and play Michigan State. That's going to get you ready for the Michigan game. If you handle those two games on the road, this should be the year that the Big Ten championship not only solidifies O State and Justin Fields as a quarterback and team, and Ryan Day as a coach, but it'll show that this team not only were they battle tested, but they also come in ready to smack whoever, barring any injuries. Knock on wood, but barring any injuries or unforeseen circumstances with COVID. So I'm looking at a Big Ten championship. I just hope they can keep up and show that they actually have a team good enough, even through all of this, they have a team good enough to win a national championship.
Yeah, man. Time will tell. I mean, I definitely see a Big Ten championship happening, and then you figure with teams like Minnesota, who were a very great story last year. Um, of course, they got some guys who have moved on or whatever, so they're coming back with a little bit shorter pen than they were previous year. And then also looking at what's another matchup I was trying to see this week. It looks like so Michigan plays them first at Minnesota, so that'll be a night game.
And you know what? You know what? To be honest, I have that as my Big Ten championship. Ohio State, Minnesota. I don't know why, but I have that as my Big Ten championship game because I granted Minnesota did very well last year. I don't expect them to fall far off. I don't expect them to fall off too much this year. Their first test is a rivalry game against Michigan. I think they can do it. I honestly believe that they can do it. I don't see going off last year. I didn't see anything as to why they cannot be in the Big Ten championship outside of recruiting, which PJ
Yeah,
Fleck has done very well to do. I didn't see a lot. They beat Penn State. Granted, they lost. They lost. I think they lost the Wisconsin game, and
hmm
they slipped up against another team. I couldn't remember who. So they went what 10-3, 10-2.
yep.
I don't see them
Yeah,
falling
Regas.
far off. If they can get if they can get past Michigan and they let's say they beat Michigan, that's a lot of momentum you got going into the rest of the season. I
Speaking of losses, I gotta ask you about this one. North Carolina, Florida State. I, for one, didn't see that happening last week. I for
Neither
sure
did
didn't
I.
see that one. I was like, wow, okay. Because we were talking about, Miami putting that beat down on them and how that went about, and we thought that they would put up a better fight against Clemson, but then turn around and we see them put the beat down on North Carolina, which North Carolina tried to come back, later on in the game, which we saw them have a little run. But in the end, they ended up losing that game. And I don't know, man. Like, did it take you by surprise too?
Yeah, it did. It did because I was like you. I was thinking it was supposed to be uh um it was supposed to be a Clemson North Carolina showdown towards the end of the season.
Hmm.
Now, with that being said, I feel like this was this was a time that, you know, if you were gonna show if you were gonna show you could hold your own against a team like Clemson, you had to get past Florida State. You had to. That was a game you were supposed to win and win handily. And because that slip up happened, now people are going to question going into the Clemson game at the end of the season, can you handle Clemson? Clemson put up 73 on Georgia Tech. It's Georgia Tech, but still, that's you play who's on your schedule, and then a conference only schedule. I'm sorry, Georgia Tech, but you was a lamb out the slaughter.
Yeah,
So uh, I'm not gonna say I'm not sold on North Carolina because of this loss.
hmm
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say North Carolina needs to show me something from here on out going into the game against Clemson at the end of the season.
definitely. And let me ask you this too, man. Do you have for the upcoming games this week? Are there any upsets that you're predicting this week?
Um, let's take a look at the schedule then. Let me pull up my schedule.
Because I was looking at that myself, and I'm like, okay, there's a couple of them on here that I kind of want to pay attention to. Um, because right
Yeah,
now,
and let me look at my schedule. Okay, I got my schedule. Week 8, Big Ten plays in. So first off, the first game that I have as an upset is a possible night game between Wisconsin and Illinois. Now, Wisconsin's a 20-point favorite,
hmm
but um, you know, again, it's the Big Ten. It's weird shit has happened. So I'm gonna say Illinois pulls off an upset by like 4 points. Not gonna say it's gonna come true, but that's a possible upset. The next upset I have off of that, Georgia Southern has been playing really, really well, and I think they could actually beat uh, Coastal Carolina, who's undefeated at this point. Um, Florida, Florida Atlantic just started their season, and they're going up against Marshall, who's also undefeated. So it's possible with that too. Uh, and Notre Dame should handle Pittsburgh, so I don't see that as an upset, but it will be a tough game for them. Iowa State could pull the upset against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's currently undefeated.
hmm
So anything is possible with that game. It is the Big 12, and we all know the Big 12 is pass happy, so that score is going to look like a basketball score. Um, believe it or not, outside of outside of those games, here's the other two games that I called. First off, let me ask if you knew this. Did you know that BYU is currently undefeated?
That I did not know. I thought they dropped one somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow,
No.
so they're undefeated.
BYU is 5-0
Okay.
right now. playing against Texas
Wow.
State. And BYU's at home. I don't see BYU losing at home, especially knowing Provo is a tough place to play. It always has been, despite what people believe. BYU has always been a tough team. Um, Cincinnati and SMU. That's the game I want you to pay attention to because
Mm-hmm.
again, just like BYU, SMU is undefeated, Cincinnati is undefeated. I wonder if Luke Fickle will have that team ready to play in a hostile environment like Dallas. And a lot of these games that SMU has won, they've been at home. They've taken command with the run game. They have been running the ball a lot. And it's been hurting teams because they got running back by committee. It's almost like the Pony Express of the 80s. But Cincinnati also has a decent defense. You know, Luke Fickle is a defensive coordinator or was a defensive coordinator, so he has a knack for defense. Been a defensive
True.
player all his life. I'm curious, and here's where my curiosity peaks. My curiosity peaks with Cincinnati's offense. They struggled against Army, and they struggle. They struggle when they're down. The last couple of years, anytime they've lost the lead or they've been playing from behind, they've struggled to get points. So my question for Cincinnati will be: can they keep up with SMU's offense enough to where they can get those one or two defensive stops that they need and turn them into points? Because if they can turn turnovers into points or 3 and outs into points, they got a good chance to come out of here with the win. The last game I have as a watch out for is, believe it or not, Penn State against Indiana. Penn State has to go into Indiana. Now, I get it. It's Indiana. Everybody's like they're a doormat. Nobody cares. But think about this. The last time we talked about Penn State losing a game, we got this podcast started. I predicted that Penn State was going to lose to Minnesota by 3 to 5 points because they were looking past Minnesota to get to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be the same thing here. I think they'll be focused enough in the first half. They'll go up a couple of touchdowns. They'll think they're going to coast, and then shit's just going to go downhill from there. I don't think that will happen, but it's a strong possibility, given that this happened last year in the Minnesota game. So just keep an eye on that game because this could tell you a lot going into the Ohio State game, which is next week after Ohio State plays Nebraska and Penn State plays Indiana. Just keep an eye on that game this weekend. I'm not saying it'll happen, but again, this is a year where weird stuff has already happened.
And speaking of Cincinnati, shout out to Shaq Washington, who is the head coach of Maple Heights High School. Probably the youngest coach I ever heard of as far as coaching a high school team. He's only 26 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
He's also the career
leader
in receptions at Cincinnati. In that state championship.
You got to remember too. Yeah, exactly. When Shaq left, he was a state champ. Should be playing in the NFL somewhere for somebody because there's a lot of teams that could use him. But granted, he's where he should be, and he's doing great things with that team. So shout out to him. I just feel like since he might be down there this weekend, taking a look at, or he might be watching this weekend rather, taking a look at what's going on.
So speaking of him, man, since you had mentioned the NFL, I know with him, he had a tryout that he was supposed to do with the Chargers, I believe it was last year. Um, but he had a torn, was it a hamstring? I think it was. He tore some kind of injury, man. And then he just went ahead and said, you know what? Let's just give back. You know what I'm saying? And went home and started got the head coaching job basically. Because I guess the coach that was there had resigned at that time. So I'm not sure what the draw was other than him wanting to go back to his hometown. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, a lot of teams can definitely use him, and he'll probably be checking that game out for sure. It's gonna be real hype. You know what I mean? But to your point, yeah, I feel like that's a game to watch. I'm glad you said Iowa State because Iowa State be pulling off some crazy wins over these last few years, man. They definitely be a team to
Especially this
watch,
season.
especially in this one. Yeah, man. So I'm definitely hype about that too.
If they could take down Oklahoma State, just think about this. If they could take down Oklahoma State, they'll have been completed the sweep against Oklahoma teams in the Big 12, which could set them up for a Big 12 title game appearance. If they have, should they have let me see if they live. Should they have a Big 12 title game, that could set them up for a very big Big 12 conference game or title game. But they have to get, well, actually, the second half of their schedule is like really tough. They got Oklahoma State, then they're at Kansas, then they got Baylor, Kansas State, Texas, and West Virginia. That second half of that schedule is going to be tough. But if they can get past Oklahoma State, I think this sets them up for a championship. It's possible. I do feel like if they can get past Oklahoma State, because you've already gotten past Oklahoma.
True.
And it's only a matter of time. And you beat Oklahoma at home, which nobody expected you to do anyway. So we shall see. But they've already won 2 tough games against TCU and Oklahoma in the conference. So it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just super excited. Like you said, you got Big Ten football starting back. The Big 12's all over the place. It seems like they keep changing hands every week, which is cool for me because I don't necessarily have a team that I really follow in the Big 12, but at the same time, to see that it's, I guess, a lot more even this year than people thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because I know for me coming in, I was like, okay, well, I was watching Oklahoma. I was looking at Texas to do something different, and it just seems real level right now. Because, week after week, and then these teams go up against each other. And just, I guess, with it being in conference games, you know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. Because it's like, these are opponents that you're seeing every year. And at the end of the day, you got to win these games. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, the pandemic's been hitting people hard. And it just shows, man. Week after week, you see something different. Or you see a team lose you don't expect to lose. And I think that's made college football, for me personally, a little more exciting.
And not to mention, don't forget, in 2 weeks, Pac-12 startup.
Yes.
So all the Power Five schools will have play or have seasons in progress. So there will be a college football playoff. We don't know how everybody's going to do their championship or conference championship games, but we do know there will be a college football playoff. So with this COVID year, I'm going to say this again. People serious one day. If this was a year for a championship to be stolen, this would be the year. Clemson, we already know is the favorite. It's no secret. Everybody's got Clemson on their radar. Clemson's going to win the championship handily, supposedly. I don't see that happening this year. I don't see Clemson running away with it. I don't. Because I don't see Clemson running away with it. If Ohio State was going to steal one, if a Pac-12 team was going to steal one, hell, I'll even go so far as to say if a Big 12 team was going to steal one, this would be the year.
This would be
Who's
the
got the
year.
balls to do it? Who's got the balls to do it remains to be seen. But I feel like a championship in college football will be stolen this year.
I
It
feel
is
that way
very
too.
possible.
Because you figure, like we've been talking about for a while, like the different factors aren't there. You got people going out there with just, pure coaching, raw talent. It's just a matter of who's better that week, and we'll kind of see what happens, how it plays out. There is no prediction that is standing because you figure there's teams out there who you think are going to dog walk people or mop the floor with them, whatever, and the games end up being close. You got other games where you thought was close, where people get blown out, and it's just so many different things you can look at and different ways you can study the tape or come out here and say somebody's going to do what against whoever, and you end up looking at it again. You see the outcome of like a North Carolina Florida State game. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
just seeing, when LSU had dropped to Missouri, I didn't see that coming at all. Even with their struggles this season, I didn't see
Man,
that happen. I was
nobody's
like, man. So, it's just week to week, it's something different.
that one just
Or
shocked everybody.
Kentucky when they beat up on Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is struggling, but 34-7, like I ain't see that happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just a lot. It's all over the place, man. But like I said, this is for me my most exciting, I would say, year of college football, just seeing how everything played out. And then not to mention regular season games still coming on around
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. That's unheard of for college
Yeah.
football because it always was like you play your, conference championships and all that stuff. And here it is, the second, Saturday in December, and you're like maybe a couple of games here and there, kind of hanging out or
Bowl
whatever, and
season.
bowl season starting up and all that. And this year, it's like, oh, we got regular season games that are still scheduled to happen, right before Christmas and all this stuff. Like, it's just unheard of. So to have regular college football games happening and the NFL happening, like, it sucks that we're dealing with the pandemic, but from somebody that's sitting here on the couch watching these games, it's a dream come true for me because I'm like, I got regular
I
football
mean,
happening at all
but
levels.
you know what? Right, right. Because the state playoffs here in Ohio are still going on. And shout out
Hmm.
to Shaw High School for winning their state playoff game against Lipson, I believe. And Lipson had been going in scoring 40 points a game the last 4 games, and Shaw took that game handily. So shout out to Shaw. Um, yeah, man, it's this is this is a football football fan's dream right now. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna sit here and pretend it ain't. I like this.
Right. And could you imagine if we didn't have seasons though? What that would look like right
Oh
now?
man, people would be eating a bullet right now. Be on suicide watch.
Yeah, it would be. It's that serious,
But
man. Because you gotta remember,
but
like, it's a mental escape for a lot of us.
yeah, video games don't work all the time.
Nope.
Going out and taking the drive. Sometimes you just gotta watch a game. Sports brings everybody together. Uh, I know people don't like to believe that, but I mean, when was the last time you really seen a riot? On a Sunday during football season, unless the team won the championship.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly.
um, I, I'm excited for Big Ten play this year. I'm hoping the Buckeyes can keep my prediction. Uh, it's just going to be one of those years where crazy things have happened, and we got to keep watch on whatever's going on. So, it's giving us a lot to talk about at the end of this at the end of the day. Every week we got something new to talk about.
For sure. Some we ain't seen, some we ain't heard, and some we definitely didn't predict. So
Right?
I'm open for it all.
Going to be a lot of fun. All right, folks. That concludes this episode of 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. We'd like to once again thank Glenn Campbell for coming on the show, speaking with us. Always good to talk to him. Quick update.
Uh-oh.
Oh god. Cardinals Cardinals are up again, 28-3. It's 7:25 left in the third. Dallas has the ball, but they're playing from behind once again. So you know where this is going.
Mm. You still got a field goal.
Uh. I told you, man, this was a weird year. This was a weird year.
Yeah.
But that concludes this episode. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't also remember we still do our audio shows on Anchor. Check out the latest one from last week. We probably will have another audio show next week. Take a little time off from doing audio shows, but it was important for us to have Glenn Campbell on because he's a really good guy doing really good things, especially for the community. So just once again, keep us in your minds. Keep checking our Facebook page. Don't forget, we are working on the second round of the Friday Night Super Fight tournament. We got to get those matchups together, but there should be some good matchups this second round. Some funny ones. That Urkel Lee one, man, you still got me tripping on that one. I don't understand how you can't.
That was the best, man. That was the best.
When you threw that matchup out there, I was like, how the hell do you even come up with that? Like, you really?
I don't even. What I'll tell you before we get off the show, man, is that it was funny because we've been watching all this random stuff from the '90s with our kids, and they have the full series of Family Matters on Hulu that you can play from beginning to end.
Yeah,
and it's funny
I've been
because
watching that.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And it's funny because there's two episodes where they utilize, Urkel in the transformation chamber and turned into Bruce Lee and all that stuff. Just crack me up because you got the one with them at the park with the gang or whatever they fight off. Then you got the other one where I think Carl turns into one and then Urkel turns into one. It's just funny seeing them terrible wigs and like them trying to act this out. And of course, they ain't out there flipping and doing none of them acrobatics, obviously. But it's just funny, man, seeing them guys do that stuff. It's great.
You want to hear something? You want to hear something really funny? So I'm gonna ask this question before we get off, but this one is gonna be really funny for those who did not know this. Remember the Sonic Hedgehog cartoon back in the day, back in the '90s, for the original one? What's the correlation between Sonic the Hedgehog and Family Matters?
Jaleel White. Sonic. Yeah. That's the best thing.
Steve Urkel was Sonic the Hedgehog in the very first Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon.
Bro, when I told my son that, and he was tripping. Like he was like, "Oh, Urkel is Sonic. That's cool, man. That's cool." And I was like, I was probably in high school when I found out. I'll be honest, I ain't know. But I told him that. He was like, "Oh man,
I was grown. I was grown when I found out Uncle Phil was the original voice of Shredder in the Ninja Turtles cartoon. So
me too, bro. I was like, "That's crazy." Like,
who knew? And it was crazy. No, what's crazy is when you hear Uncle Phil yell during the episodes of The Fresh Prince, you can hear Shredder's voice. You can hear it. Like if you really pay attention, you hear Shredder's voice.
That's so cool, though, man.
It's crazy. Cool. It's crazy to know these things. All right, folks. Like I said, don't forget to check us out next week. Audio only show. We'll have a little bit to talk about. Probably won't be on no longer than an hour. We'll of course cover college football, the opening weekend in the Big Ten. We'll also touch on the NFL, see if the Browns bounce back. While I'm thinking about this, please do not forget to show some love to Cleveland Sports Talk. And, just check out the website, clevelandsportstalk.com. I am also a writer for the website. I do recap the Browns games. There are a lot of good writers. And, You know, they're very talented. They cover all of Cleveland sports just like I do. Just go over there and show them some love. It's a very good website. Everybody's into it. You know, very in depth. So just keep an eye on that, and we'll be working on some more big things. Probably some collaborations with other shows, as I've had to do and been blessed to do interviews for other podcast shows. So they said they will return the favor, so we'll be working on that as well. Just like I said, keep supporting us. Things are happening. So 4th and 15, I'm Mill. That's Smooth. Peace.